Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome back to another episode of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. If you haven't checked out any of the previous episodes, then head back to the channel and check them out. And before we get cracking with today's episode, make sure you smash the likes on the video and subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't done so already. As always, I'm delighted to be joined by Lewis. Bro, great to have you on board for another episode. The weekend. Not great. Chelsea Man United, always a big game. We always look forward to it, thinking, we're going to beat them. They're terrible. They're not playing well. And yet another year passes, another game against United passes in the league, and we still can't beat them. I don't know what it is about them, but the game itself was, mate, you were there. I was sitting at home watching it. It was terrible. I honestly think it's one of the worst games of football I've ever watched. But yet, despite saying that, we didn't deserve anything from the game. But then when you get so close to winning the game, you feel disappointed that you didn't see it off. I mean, how did you see it? Because I just thought, I don't know what it is, because we haven't been playing that badly recently. All right, the last couple of games have been not been the best, but we haven't lost or anything. I don't know what it is about playing United, but it seems to bring the worst in us.
I think you said it perfectly. Like, one game, one win against them in the league, it is so not hard to ask, especially with the way they played over the last few years. But we're lucky to even take a draw, which is the most annoying part. Like, I spoke in the last podcast about United's rotation and their lack of depth and how we can use that to our advantage. They looked like the fitter side, and the majority of those players played on Wednesday. That was the thing that stood out to me the most. That and just Ten Hag, you know what? Fair play to him because he's done a lot with that United side in a very short space of time. I haven't seen us get dominated like that all season. Even in spite of all the games that we've lost or we played terribly in, I haven't seen a team have possession of the ball so easily, be able to do whatever they want with it, be able to win the ball back straight after. Their counter press was ridiculous. We're just lucky they had no end product, and Sancho was just absolute crap on the left-hand side. It's the only thing that saved us from not being 1 or 2 goals down. That and a couple of good saves by Kepa. How we even got to 1-0 up, I was going to take it and run. And then it's a heartbreaking equaliser off another cross that we always struggle with. Nearly every late goal that we give up that ends in a draw is always a cross.
Mate,
it always is.
There's loads of them in there. Like, you can go back to last season. You had Danny Welbeck when we played Brighton at Stamford Bridge. We had Connor Cody getting a late equaliser for Wolves. As you say, these are all just headers in the box, like in stoppage time, and we just can't seem to deal with it. But I mean, obviously, before the game, the lineup didn't really have any issues with it. Obviously, we weren't aware that Chalobah was injured beforehand. Other than that, it's pretty much what we would have expected. All right, yeah, Pulisic perhaps deserved to start over Sterling, but ultimately that was never going to happen in this game. I don't think anyone can complain too much about starting with a back five. The Cucurella and Chilwell left-hand side, again, we saw it against Villa. It was awful. They had to step up. I didn't really see too much improvement from them. But do you like kind of respect Potter for having the balls to admit after 35 minutes, this is wrong, this is not working, and making a change? Because I think that's quite ballsy, really, from him to switch it up. And it did make a difference. But what were your thoughts on how Potter managed that game? Because I think, as I say, I thought the change was pretty bold and something we perhaps wouldn't have seen. You might only see that from someone like Mourinho who would do that. I don't think Tuchel would have done that. Not that it matters now, but I thought it was a bold change, and I think it definitely helped us, because otherwise we were just going to get worse and worse.
But we were speaking about this on my stream, and I think, what was his name, Moyo, he came up with a really good point about it. If we just played 3 in midfield at the start, it would have meant that we could have had later substitutions. Well, our substitutions that were later on in the game could have been put in a lot earlier, because you have 5 subs, but you can only put them in 3 separate stoppages. Because we made the mistake and we didn't go with 3 in midfield, we had to waste one of those stoppages. And now it's a case of, when are you going to use the other 2? Because you could put one on early, but that means your next substitution has to be at least 3 subs, or there's 2 that you can't use. And that's what kind of held us back, because my only issue with Potter was he didn't put the attacking subs on until the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
When we were screaming for them a lot earlier. But the reason why was because we made that early first sub. So it was good to acknowledge the mistake and to fix it quickly, but we can't be making those mistakes.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. You can't. I think, he's still learning. He's like, obviously, I know he's managed at the top level in the Premier League, but then he's going to the top of that level at Chelsea, one of the best clubs in the league. He's going to take time for him to learn. He's got a lot to learn still. He's still going to be adapting as a manager. I think on the whole, his in-game management has been pretty much spot on since he's been here. I've really liked his use of the bench and the impact that the subs seem to have. But yeah, I mean, personally, I wouldn't have gone with a 3 in midfield to start with, but I can understand people calling for it, and you could see from the off straight away that we were like, they had so much time, and Casemiro and Eriksen had so much time on the ball. They were just passing through the midfield every time. United getting in behind us so easily. I mean, and to be honest, if it wasn't for Kepa and United being better finishers, then we would have been 2 down. Rashford probably should have scored. Anthony should have scored. We were kind of in trouble. But I mean, ultimately, we come away with a point again. I mean, are you disappointed with that? I mean, given how the game played out, like, it probably is a fair result. But I always think, to let a goal in stoppage time, you shouldn't be doing that. I mean, at this level, you shouldn't be able to. You should be seeing out
That's
5 minutes in a game. You've got to be seeing it out.
That's the disappointment, because we should have held on from there. But in terms of the way we played, I think we should just be grateful we even took a draw, because we even when we got to 3 midfield, like, we only leveled it out a bit more. I don't think we were ever in total control of that game. As we looked a little bit more on the front part, which was after we scored, because United were a bit shaken. They added the likes of Elanga, and they put some extra pace in, and we struggled again. And it wasn't a good performance, but it just confirms everything I was saying earlier. Like, even in spite of the winning run, I wasn't totally convinced by it. I was just happy that we were on a run. In terms of the way we're playing, we're only good against an injury-prone AC Milan side and a Wolves side without a manager. Every game was a struggle other than that.
Yeah, it has been a struggle, but I think also it's fair to say that with the same players, essentially exactly the same players as we had with Tuchel, where we were playing absolutely dire football, and I was dreading watching us every time we played. Like, he's slightly better, but how much better can we expect it to really be in this short space of time? It's not going to be like, he's not going to work miracles. It's going to take time to implement a new style, get these players playing better. One thing that I would say, and I know it's difficult as a manager, but I think he's got to pick players that deserve to be in the team, and not pick players based on their name and their reputation. I think, for me, Sterling doesn't deserve to be starting at the moment. I thought he was terrible. I mean, we can get into him in a bit more detail. I mean, he came in biggish money in the summer. We were excited for it. He started reasonably well. He's got 6 goal and assists this season. Last month or so, he's been completely ineffective. He's offering nothing. And, in a big game against United, the sort of game that he was signed to make a difference in, he was missing. We need so much more from him. How concerned are you by his form? Because for me at the moment, it's like he's kind of a passenger. He just literally offers nothing right now.
This is Mount, right?
No, Sterling.
Oh, yeah, Sterling. All right, cool, because it sounds a lot like Mount too. I'll get to that as well. But Sterling, you need to drop him. And, like, I'll say as well, I think our fan base has been really reactionary with him right now. They're saying he's been our worst signing of the summer and all sorts. He's our top goal scorer, and he was literally carrying our attack and the only attacker getting GNA when Tuchel was here. It's waffle. He's in a bad run of form, which he does need to pick himself up from. And he needs to be dropped as well, because he's not turning up in the big games. And these are the games that we signed him for. He wants to be the main man at Chelsea. You need the responsibility that comes with that, aka the big games. We are looking to you. And I get he still needs to adapt to a different system, and I will afford him the time. I'm not on his neck too much, but the performances just haven't been good enough recently. And we need him to at least be driving through players, at least making chances or doing something to contribute. But he's not. Like, it's been poor the last few games. It's not even been average at this point, and he needs to do better. But at this point, he also needs a whole bench for a game or two for Pulisic, because Pulisic can't buy a start right now, and everyone who's playing over him isn't playing well enough. So he needs to be given a game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, as you say, Sterling wanted to leave City, new challenge, be the main man. If you want to be the main man, as you say, you have to step up in games like this. You can't go missing. And look, you can't play well every game. Of course you can't. But you've got to step up. You've got to contribute something. And, yes, I know it's different. And I'm fully aware that we were never going to get the Raheem Sterling that played at Manchester City. Because one, we don't have the quality of players that City have. And we don't have the quality of creative players that they've got either. And Sterling, he's never been a prolific finisher in his career. He's needed a lot of chances to score. But at City, that doesn't matter. When you're winning most weeks and you get 5-6 chances a game. If you stick one away, no one remembers the other 3 or 4 that you missed. At Chelsea, you only get a couple chances. If you miss them both, people remember that because it costs you points. It doesn't cost you points at City. So this is why I think Sterling's flaws are more exposed at Chelsea than they are at City. And
this is why it should be obvious.
Yeah.
It's like the only thing is that we're holding Sterling to the responsibility of the main man, and Sterling ain't that guy. And I can admit that freely, and I can be fine with it. Sterling is a player that improves our attack. He is not an Eden Hazard. He is not someone that can carry a squad single-handedly.
No.
And he's being given that sort of responsibility. He's also asked for that responsibility, but he's not that guy. And I think once people just learn that and accept it, I think we'd look at him a lot more differently. He's not the main man. He wants to be the main man. He shouldn't be. I think if we get a better creator and a better midfield around him, I think he looks a lot better personally. We're relying on him to do everything for us, and he can't do that. But same way, we also can't use that to hide the fact he's not been good enough. It's a case of both.
No, that's exactly it, mate. It's both. Yes, he needs to do more, but he would look better with better players and with more creative players around him because there'd be less emphasis on him to have to do everything. But yeah, I agree, mate. He shouldn't be starting the next game or maybe even the next couple of games. If we're being perfectly honest, he needs to have a bit of a reality check. And as you say, no one deserves, no one has a given right, to start for Chelsea. You've got to earn that right. And if you're not performing, it doesn't matter what your name is or what you've done in your career. You shouldn't be starting. It's as simple as that. But, you mentioned Mount earlier. He's been in pretty good form the last few games, the 2 Milan games against Wolves. He obviously got a couple goals against Villa and stuff. Dropped off big time in this game. I thought it was really disappointing. I was speaking to Alex earlier, and he thought he had quite a good game, and he was involved. I thought I was watching a different game to him. But what did you make of him again? For the Mount detractors that always say he's stat pads against relegation sides. I mean, he's turned up in the San Siro, he's turned up in the Bernabeu. He can do it, but all too often in big games in the Premier League, we don't really see any return from him. How concerned are you by that kind of big game record, particularly in the Premier League?
Mount is not even a big game, small game sort of thing. It's just consistency in general, and I don't think he has enough of it. He had that nice little purple patch for a game or two, and now he's disappeared for another 2 games. It's tiring. It's so tiring because we'll speak about it in general, but I think with Mount, he's underrated and overrated within the same sentence with this fan base. There are people who will hype him to death, say the maddest stuff about him, and then there's people that will over-criticize him and be way too harsh on him. It's all just a lot, really. I just want him to develop, and he's not showing me consistency right now. I know his numbers have improved year on year, so I'm not closing the book on Mount at all, but we need more consistency. He just had a good run of games, and he's gone back to being invisible for 2 games.
I think he's got.
And what? We're going to say he's one of our best players still. He's going to say he's one of the first names on the team sheet. I just don't get it. I really don't get it.
I mean, I think he's got to play deeper. I think there's no surprise that his best games this season have come when he's played deeper as more of an 8 or as a third man in midfield. Compared to United, he was out wide on the right hand side. I know he dropped in a little bit in the second half and that, but for me, there's no surprise that in that attacking third of the pitch, he's not as effective if he starts kind of wide on the left or the right. He needs to play a bit deeper where he can have a bit more time on the ball and stuff and see more of the ball as well, because at times he looks very isolated out there. So, Mount isn't, we know that Mount's not like an attacker in terms of playing a right side or whatever. We know he's an 8, but I think he just kind of found himself in that position because over the Tuchel's run over the last couple of years, everyone else has been so shit. So he kind of just found himself there because he was delivering decent numbers. But yeah, we'll have to see with Mount. He definitely needs more consistency. But as you say, no, I'm far from writing him off. But he does need to find a little bit more consistency to his game. I just wanted to quickly chat on some before we move on to the Champions League that has seemed to have found some consistency and is turning into a really good player for us and a really important player. He's learning from the best. And that's Trevor Chalobah. So we still haven't lost in a game that he's played for us. I thought he was superb again yesterday. He had the one good chance for us where his header hit the crossbar. I've been so impressed with him. I thought it was really hard done by at the start of the season where he's barely playing. Obviously, he's lucked in with Fofana's injury, but he's taken that opportunity and he's putting in top performances week in, week out. He looks like he's improved so much from last season as well. I mean, how impressed have you been with him?
Chalobah has been our second best defender this season. And I think he's finally starting to get the respect that he deserves, but it's just mad how everyone was really just writing him off after a season. Like, I think yesterday, probably even better than Silva, because Silva was getting caught out a couple times. Even defending the Casemiro cross, like, he wasn't really good at it. And I feel like that's also a point a lot of people aren't talking about too much. But we'll save that for another day. But in general, Chalobah progressively has been brilliant. His positional awareness has only seemed to get better. There's nothing wrong with his game right now. Like, he has probably been our most consistent player since Potter's come in. And when you deep it, yeah, it's been him. He's been our most consistent player since Potter's come in. Yeah, because even Kepa, like, he had clean sheets and everything, but he didn't get tested till Villa. Everything else was just plain sailing from him. He didn't have much to do. Chalobah, every game he has played, he has barely put a foot wrong.
But I can't remember a mistake he's made this season, you know. And yes, as you say, as I said, you know, yes, he's probably only playing because Fofana's injured. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Fofana ain't getting straight back into the team.
No, he's not. I was going to say,
Cucurella comes out.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens when Fofana does get himself fit after the World Cup, because there's no guarantees that he automatically goes and plays ahead of Chalobah. He's going to have to earn that right to play there again. But I mean, ultimately on the United game, to kind of just round that off, it was disappointing, and obviously the levels have got to step up big time. But having said that, I mean, obviously we're just dropped out of fourth place. Newcastle obviously beating Spurs have gone into fourth, but I think we got a game in hand on them. So yeah, you know, it was an important not to lose that game. We could have easily lost it, but yeah, there's got to be big improvement, particularly in the big games. The game's still coming thick and fast. Champions League Tuesday night, difficult trip to Salzburg. That's, you know, we drew against them in Graham Potter's first game in charge at Stamford Bridge. They're a decent team, you know. They got some half decent players, and at home it's always tricky to go there. I think it's the early kickoff as well. Potter was saying that, you know, a lot of the players that weren't involved at all or weren't involved much against United are going to probably start this game. So you would think that's going to hint at a start for Broja, starts with Pulisic, starts with Gallagher, etc. We need to kind of win to consolidate top spot in the group. Apart from the win, what are you wanting to see from this game? What are you wanting to see different from the weekend?
I mean, just some competent attacking plays for one. In terms of the formation, in terms of the lineup, just please start Pulisic. I can't keep asking at this point. If he doesn't start now, I'm just going to assume Potter has a personal issue with him, because nothing else is going to make sense. Kai will probably start. Well, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
The midfield, Jorginho probably still goes in.
We haven't really got much options for rotation in there at all. I mean, do you think
we are one midfield injury away from a club?
Well, even Potter saying that, you know, after the game, that Kovacic has been playing through a knee injury all season, and they've wanted to rest him more, but they haven't been able to. I mean, that just goes to show you, like, you think
Tuchel said we didn't need a midfielder. Yeah. I love you, Tuchel, but I hate you too. Why?
Do you think we could see
this whole thing is just a walking fucking stress ball?
I mean, I honestly think that if there wasn't the World Cup coming up, that Kovacic would have probably taken surgery on that knee, but he doesn't want to miss the World Cup, so he's just kind of playing through it.
Yeah, and you're only gonna fuck yourself for the future if you keep doing that. Use Titi as an example. He didn't go for surgery. You heard of him now, 4 years down the line, the 2022 World Cup? No. Why? Because he did his knee.
But it's even for James. Surgery. I mean, I understand James wants to play, but he's young enough he's got another World Cup in him. I could understand a bit more if it
has to be the doctor's call. Yeah, and if the doctor doesn't think he's good enough, he needs to just man up and say he's not good enough to play.
He does. But I mean, yeah, I mean, the midfield though is, as you say, like we've got no room for rotation there at all. I mean, if we stick with a pivot, you're not going to stick Chukwuemeka in there. I wouldn't have thought. I mean, do you think? I can't see it, but surely this would be as good a time as any to play Zakaria, given the amount of games coming up, the lack of rotation in midfield. We have got an extra man there that doesn't seem to be doing anything other than just turn up to training.
I agree, but he ain't even getting off the bench, let alone starting. I'd like to see that as a bare minimum because all I'm seeing from Zakaria just screams lack of faith.
Yeah.
I don't trust him. I don't want to take him off the bench and just sit there and just say nothing and just keep quiet. They clearly don't want him there, so it's like I can't trust him. Can't trust him at all.
No, well, I mean, it appears not, but yeah, I mean, how difficult are you expecting this game to be? Obviously, I know we beat Milan twice, and Milan obviously drew at Salzburg. We've seen Salzburg get half decent results at home. It's a difficult place to go. I mean, do you think this could be a tricky game?
Oh, we'll make anything difficult. We'll make anything difficult. I don't know what to make of it. I just know we have to win. Because at the very least, if we win, we can play a rotated side against Zagreb at home. Yeah. And then we can give players the rest. You might see Zakaria get a run out. You never know.
You never know.
But
yeah, I mean,
especially with the Arsenal game coming up straight after that. Just get Salzburg done. Please don't make anything more difficult than it already is.
But yeah, I think like to win this game, we just want to get, as you say, like the Zagreb game is before. I think it's before the Arsenal game, the midweek before the Arsenal game. We don't want to go into that Zagreb game still having to, get something in order to qualify. We need to just wrap up the qualification this week, and then that Zagreb game is just a dead rubber. And it doesn't really matter what happens at all, and we can just rest a load of players and be fresh going into that weekend for Arsenal. But I mean, in terms of the group, I mean, does it matter to you whether we finish top or we come runners up? I mean, personally, for me, as long as you qualify, it makes no difference. I mean, yes, ideally, in theory, if you finish top, you should get a more favourable draw, but you can finish second and end up getting a half decent draw as well. So, I mean, does it make any difference to you really in terms of coming top of the group or not?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you'd rather come top.
Yeah, because like if we finish second, we get all the group winners. Can't even handle Zagreb and Salzburg. I won't be facing no group winners. Are you mad?
Yeah,
if that's the case, we might as well just finish third and take the Europa because we'll just run through all of that. I can't be bothered for that. I'd rather just finish first.
Yeah, no, I think first is it's got to be the aim. I mean, just on the Champions League as a whole in general to round out. I mean, the 2 times, I'm not saying we're going to win it, but the 2 times we've won it, we didn't expect us to get anywhere near the final, let alone winning it. So, like, with Chelsea, it's never when we think we're going to win it, we end up winning it.
It got to a point where we could, because
it got to a point, yeah.
Once you get to the quarterfinals, your whole map to the final gets written out.
Yeah,
that was kind of in our favor.
I mean, what chances do you put on the Champions League this season at this point? I know it's like difficult to predict, but do you think we're kind of in with a shout, or do you just think we're going to be miles off it and we'll end up going out in the last 16 of the quarters? Because I don't know what it is with Chelsea in this competition, but we do seem to sort of pull something out. And we should have made semi-finals last year. We should have held on to beat Madrid. I mean, do you think we can do something this season?
Each game at a time. I can't predict none of that. All depends on who we get in the last 16, if we can get past them, and then what's our route to the final after that. If we get lumped in with a group of like PSG, Bayern Munich, and Real Madrid, peace. It was nice. If we get like, I don't know, Lyon or I don't know, like teams that are more manageable, let's say.
Yeah.
Then,
I mean, I think the draw played. I know you got to play everyone, but the draw does play a massive hand. When we won in Porto, we had an Atletico Madrid beside that was poor. We played Porto, which is not exactly and
on the other side was PSG, City, Bayern Munich.
Yeah, exactly, and all of them. And then we played in the semis a Real Madrid team that, all right, is Real Madrid, but it was a poor Madrid team. I know we still beat them. You had to beat them, and they're still dangerous. But yeah, the draw very much.
That Madrid team, they were good. We battered them.
We did beat them, yeah. But I mean, yeah, the draw is it does help massively. I do agree. It is a bit early to say, but I don't know what it is. It's something about Champions League where I just think, do you know what? Maybe we could do something. You just never know, because there's not many chances. We're not going to win the league. chances are we're going to be out the Carabao Cup in a couple of weeks' time anyway, because we've got City. And then you think FA Cup, we've lost the last 3 finals. We are due. You can't keep making finals. You'd think we'd be unlikely to win it this season. So, like, you're thinking where the trophy's coming from. Like that's the thing. But I mean, what do you think our best chance of winning a trophy is this season? I mean, because I would have said League Cup, but that draws
I think it is the
almost.
League Cup.
You still think League Cup?
They got to rotate. We got to rotate. Levels out the playing field a little bit. If we knock City out, we knock out our biggest challengers.
Yeah.
Everyone else, well, we could go through them. I could back us in a one-off game against them. So if it's anything, it's the League Cup. But I'm also not pinning my season's ambitions on the League Cup. We have fallen off a cliff if we get to that point. Just top 4, a trophy, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Just no trophy parades, I beg. Like I will physically go against my own.
Man, imagine parading down the Fulham Road with a League Cup on the bus.
Anyone who turns up to that trophy parade is an enemy of progress. Anyone. I will not be there. Alex, respectfully, even for content's sake.
No.
Sorry, man.
But I mean, to be fair though, like as you say, we are due a domestic trophy. I mean, despite the European Success Club World Cups and all them, like whilst we're talking about trophies, we haven't won a trophy domestically for so long. It was Conte FA Cup final, Eden Hazard penalty against Man United. Like we're struggling. The Wembley record is poor in finals. So yeah, I think that's another thing that has got to change this season. But to round out, mate, score prediction Tuesday night. It's the early kickoff, I think, in Salzburg. It's probably going to be a rotated side. There'll be opportunities for players that deserve to play. How do you see it going?
Because I have no logical optimism for this game. I'll be real. I'm going to go 1-0 Pulisic because that's what I want.
Yeah.
If I think what's going to happen, I'm just going to say draw or something. I'm not going to be happy.
I'm going to go. I don't know. I think we're going to concede. I'm going to go for a 2-1. I mean, most games seem to end up 2-1 at the moment.
Wait, 2-1 who?
To us.
I wouldn't blame you for saying either way.
I wouldn't even be surprised if we actually lost 2-1. But I won't predict us to lose against Salzburg because it shouldn't be happening. I'm going to go 2-1 win. I think Pulisic might score, and I'm going to give Broja his first Champions League goal as well. But as long as we win, that's the most important thing. Get that qualification done. Make sure nothing rides on that last game. Before we then obviously head into a difficult game against Arsenal. But yeah, seems like a good point to round out the episode. Lewis, thanks for your time as always, mate. Guys, if you make sure you smash the likes on the way out of this episode and subscribe to the channel as well. And we'll catch you again in a couple of days. But until then, take care and up the Chels.